See, you would then be wrong. How many times have you been wrong by judging and assuming that you know what's going on and calling your partner a liar? So I want you to all step back for a second, and I've got some research for you, but this is research coming from studies done for the police departments and the highway patrols and courtroom activities over many, many decades. And the phenomena is, the first one that they're most concerned with is when you're a little bit flooded, you're a little bit like anxious, like when you're witnessing a crime or when you're in a fight with your spouse. There's this phenomena called the memory phenomenon. You're taking in information, but you already have information stored. The information you have stored that's similar to the information coming in will be assimilated. And that makes sense, right? We have these cognitive maps. So when I describe to you, it has a surface that you sit on and 3 legs that go to the ground to hold it up. What am I describing? All right, yeah, all of you said a stool, because as I described the components of a stool, your brain put it all together with memories that you have about a stool, and that one's easy, so you got it right. Add a back to that, and what is it? Then you got a place for your butt and a place to lean back on, and you describe a chair. So you have these maps already built in the back of your mind on these thousands and thousands of simple topics. Some of those maps are picturing your husband with a certain look on his face, and in that moment, he's telling you, back early in the relationship, I'm angry. So you kind of memorize that look, and that's the angry look. Well, what you don't know is that there's also other times in his world that he has that same look. Well, now you're in an argument and you say, you are so angry at me. And he says, I'm not angry at all. I'm just worried. No, I know your angry face. Well, it's because you've taken what you've memorized about your spouse and brought it forward and blended it with what's currently happening. And in that instant, you're wrong. And so what we need to do is we need to remember that, like, we are not accurate recallers. We recall things based upon cognitive maps, formed information, and then we apply it to the current situation, and it gets all muddled up. That's why couples can sit on your couch in a therapy office and they can literally share an experience that they had last night, completely different. And they will look at each other and say, I don't know what world you were in. And the other one will say, I have no idea what world you were in, because they both believe they're correct. Now, I often tell them, all right, both of you take a deep breath and each of you share your experience about last night, and the other one, your job is to listen, take in the information with a blank slate, and just really listen. Don't start recalling stuff to respond, because that creates this memory bias, and then believe what they say. And what you'll do then is add a new memory instead of form a memory. I know that sounds difficult, because many of you will say, but what if my partner lies to me? Well, if you've married a liar, they're going to get themselves in a bind and it's going to eventually not work. But if you call a person a liar that's telling the truth, shame on you. All right. So the only way you can do this effectively is not lie and believe the other. Again, if the person lies, then the situation won't resolve. You might even decide to believe them, move forward, it'll happen again. And if they lie enough, it'll definitely catch up with them. So you have to let the liars in the world just have their own consequences. You can't issue them, because heaven forbid you call an honest person a liar. So often in my office, it boils down to, well, I don't trust him, or I don't trust her. It's a terrible, terrifying relationship that is filled with mistrust. Most often what I'm finding out in really, really, really horrible marriages, all the way to just, like kind of decent marriages, is most often the person talking, when it gets right down to it, will tell the truth. Most often everybody in the relationship wants to solve the problem. Most often you can get to that truth just by talking through it with each other and believing the other one's point of view. So remember, when I'm talking, if you're thinking of a response instead of listening, you're pulling up information so that you can respond, which is messing with your memory. It's creating a bias in your memory. If you're not thinking of a response, you're keeping all that information dormant and you're just hearing me, you will have a more pleasant experience and you'll understand me at that moment better. Think through that lens of, what if I'm different today than I was a week ago? What if I've taken in enough data that I've changed and you're applying old memory data to the new current experience. See, you would then be wrong. How many times have you been wrong by judging and assuming that you know what's going on and calling your partner a liar? So I want you to go and apologize right now. First assignment, go apologize to your lover for not believing them about their experience. The second memory thing, it's called, in the world of research, it's called proactive interference. Again, this is all research done by the police officers union and court workers that are trying to determine why eyewitnesses are not reliable. So proactive interference is even a more detailed, kind of a different angle of what we've already talked about. It's when older memories interfere with newer memories. So let's say that I've learned how to swing a bat at a speeding baseball incorrectly, and I've practiced, and I keep missing the ball, but I keep trying, I keep swinging. Somebody says, just go spend 10,000 hours swinging a bat at a ball. But nobody teaches me how to swing it correctly, how to keep my eye on the ball, how to hold my elbows, how to hold my wrists, and where to place the bat in my hands. And so I just learn it all incorrect. It's really difficult to straighten me out. If I've made wild mistakes in a training and I do it over and over again, and then somebody comes along and says, no, you need to do it this way. Hold your elbows like this when you hold the bat. Flex your arms like this, hold the bat back here, and then watch the ball come towards you. I'm going to fight that. My whole self is going to resist. It's going to feel awkward. It's going to feel icky. How many of you have been in that experience? I did learn to swim at a really old age. I think I was probably 42 before I learned how to swim. And I dog paddled all the time. I've been in water. I've been in the ocean. I've been doing all kinds of things in water. So I've always been able to stay afloat, but never swim. And when I got taught to put my head deeper in the water, to duck my head down so that the water flowed over instead of pushed against my forehead, that felt counterintuitive. It didn't feel like I should put my head like that in the water to keep myself afloat. To stay afloat on your back, you put your head farther back. The farther back into the water you can put your head, the easier it is to float. Both counterintuitive, and it was really difficult to break the habit of trying to keep my head up. And so the whole idea of these proactive memory interferences is when you've memorized things, it's harder to learn new things. Picture you've memorized that your spouse is just always angry, or you've memorized that your spouse is just always irresponsible or never helpful. That's why we always caution you in the therapy room about not using the always never verbiage, because it's largely incorrect when you use it, and it's difficult to overcome those biases. And so how many times have you let all your older memorized feelings and assumptions of your lover get in the way of new information? We also have recovered memory syndrome, where people are very suggestible. If you talk behind your partner's back a lot, or if you share a ton of stuff and you share with friends all of your fights, and your friend puts in key information that's their assumption, you can add that and create a false memory about your spouse. And so it's really, don't create triangles and go to other people about your spouse or your person you're arguing with. Don't memorize information and then force it into the new information, and clear your mind so that as you're listening to someone, you're not listening to respond, messing with memories by bringing forward other information that's not relevant. Those are some ideas on how to be better understood and how to understand your partner better. It's super important to not assume, super important to make all your assumptions into questions. So instead of, you are always so angry, you would say, you seem angry to me, am I right? You see how easy that is? Have fun with that, and that's the end of this series. We will talk to you again another time.